Good evening. My name is John PITKIN. I'm going to go into the fast street of, I'm going to talk about why a net zero standard and what the Connolly petition does.
Could you use the mic, John?
Oh, so, okay.
Is this better? About like this?
Yeah.
Okay, about like this, okay. I'm a member of the Cambridge Committee for Net Zero Buildings. I helped draft the Connolly petition. As many of you know, I was a leader in the Cambridge Business for Building Management petition and worked with the board, the Community Development Department, the City Council to implement many of the proposals first proposed in the 1997 PITKIN petition, as well as Article 19 Special Permit Review, which we're talking about tonight. Now, after that chapter of my life, I thought my zoning days were over, and when I became engaged with climate protection in 2008 and 2009, it didn't seem to me that zoning could be an important part, and very important for slowing climate change, but now it seems that it is. And I'm here to tell you why. In the 2010 Climate Congress report, one of the findings was that an urgent task of protecting a stable protection requires urgent action at all levels, global, national, state, and local. And for the first time this year, I came across a presentation by a top-level climate scientist, Kevin Anderson, who headed the top academic research center on climate in Britain, about climate change to the City Council of the City of Manchester, England. This presentation is available online in both slide form and YouTube. And this was a real first. I'm going to have a couple of slides of his and a couple of points for him that will sort of bring it home to what this means for a city. Now, the emission reduction targets that he makes the point that we have to go from rhetoric to reality. And the rhetoric is the long-term gradual reduction. By that, the 80% reduction by 2050. It's in the Massachusetts Climate Protection Plan, or the International Energy Agency, or many governmental agencies, is the rhetoric. That's not going to save climate, particularly a global climate. The reality is that this 2050 reduction is unrelated to avoiding dangerous climate change, as Susan indicated. And we need to go to a paradigm of urgent and radical reductions. And it is the cumulative emissions that matter, i.e. the carbon budget, as Susan indicated. And I have an illustration of exactly what this means. It's not in terms of numbers, but pictures. This is a version of, it's illustrated by a revised version of the frog in boiling water shown by Al Gore in 2007. Imagine instead a stretched tub of water. The frog is at one end, and a flame is heating the water at the far end. Now, initially, the frog says it's still comfortable here because the heat's at the other end. But the frog turns off when it starts to get warm. The frog turns off the flame. What happens? The water keeps getting hotter long after the frog turns off the flame. The climate system is like this tub, and we are like the frog. If we don't act very quickly to start turning down the heat, we will experience extremely uncomfortable and dangerous climate changes to our climate globally and here in Cambridge, as Susan indicated. Not just rising sea levels and flooding, but during summer heat waves, 104 degrees could become the new 90 degrees as early as 2050 to 2060, well within the life expectancy of many people in this room and in our families. As Professor Anderson puts it, this is a kind of change beyond adaptation. Now, once you see the urgency of our situation, you have to understand that as living, breathing, thinking, and above all, feeling human beings, we have an obligation to take every practical and effective action we can in our daily lives and jobs in order to mitigate climate change. However you feel about this petition, and I'm speaking to everybody in the room, we appeal to you tonight to join in this effort, not as volunteers, but as responsible citizens of our city and the planet. Now, it makes sense to use zoning as a tool in this effort. We have a limited number of tools, and zoning is a good one. Here's why. The first is, if you just look at the purposes of the zoning ordinance, it is to conserve the value of land and buildings and preserve and increase the amenities of the city. Well, surely more severe floods, frequent floods, and heat waves of 104 degrees for sustained periods would considerably reduce the city's amenities and very likely also reduce property values. In addition, 82% of Cambridge's source emissions are from buildings. This has been known for 6 years. So that's another reason to look at zoning. Buildings are affected by zoning. Moreover, according to the 2011 Cambridge Climate Action report, the primary reason our emissions aren't going down now as hoped for is new construction. So again, another reason to look at zoning. And a great deal of new construction is in various stages of the pipeline. Now the petition proposes applying zoning to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions in operation of future large projects that are already subject to large project special review under Article 19. Now, this is achievable and practical through a combination of incremental, feasible changes to the current ordinance. And here's the basic architecture of the proposal. It is a three-legged stool. Reduce energy use, 1. 2, generate renewable energy on site. And 3, as necessary, purchase renewable energy off of the grid. It is a synergistic, performance-based standard that we call net zero building emissions. Now, how does this implemented in the ordinance? Specifically, the structure of the amendment is the purpose is outlined in sections 19.10, the changes to 19.10, 21, 25, and 22.21. So that's the special project and the sustainability sections of the ordinance. There is an expanded narrative in sections 19.24 and 22.26, modifying the narrative requirements already required for LEED Silver, so it's an incremental change there. The purchase of renewable energy is described in the new section 22.25, and the reporting of energy usage during operation in subsection 22.26.4. And I'll review two particular provisions. Requirement to purchase renewable energy, which is key, is in the new section 22.25. Of course, the first option is on-site renewable generation. The second is off-site renewable generation, but this requires that provision be made to purchase RECs, or renewable energy credits, for any portion of usage on a net basis that is generated by non-renewable sources. So that's a fallback. The detailed reporting requirements are outlined in sections, a new section 22.26.4 to ensure compliance. Reporting of total energy used, reporting of total on-site renewable energy generation, report on excess on-site energy generation that is put back into the grid, and then the number of RECs purchased to offset any net fossil fuel usage. So all of those are to be reported on a current basis by the building operator. In closing, we believe that the net zero standard for large new projects, as proposed by the Colony petition, will stimulate a new generation of truly green projects that can contribute to the short and long-term vitality and prosperity of the city. Quentin Zondervan will give you the details of implementation of the net zero emission standard and how that will work in particular projects.